You often have two audiences. You have your audience that is purchasing your product or service, and then you have an investor audience that is interested in potentially investing in your business. So having sort of a bifurcated approach and understanding that these are two very different audiences and paying attention to the KPIs that make most sense for those audiences, I think is really critical. But by doing that, we were able to really channel our efforts, reduce sort of burning time and money on channels that maybe weren't performing, and really doubling down on those that really were. So I started in public relations probably about 10 years ago in relation to my career as a content marketer. I started in the beauty industry and really sort of fell into it. I was working for a smaller company that needed coverage for communications and public relations. So really learned by doing, both in the United States and the UK. I was based in San Francisco, but was doing PR and communications for a company that was based in Tokyo, but had offices in London and in San Francisco. And then from there, it just became part of my skill set, and it was something that I built on, went to conferences, asked questions, etc., and just became a core function of my overall role as somebody that brings in organic traffic for companies. I would say one of the more notable PR efforts that I've had in recent years was announcing an early stage startup and using data to sort of inform direction and where we would spend our time, attention, and resources. So developing KPIs around what we wanted to see happen in terms of reach, in terms of mention, overall earned media, really paying attention to those numbers so we could see, who is consuming our stories and what they were doing with them after they consumed them. So following that reader journey was really critical, and understanding, particularly in the tech space, you often have two audiences. You have your audience that is purchasing your product or service, and then you have an investor audience that is interested in potentially investing in your business. So having sort of a bifurcated approach and understanding that these are two very different audiences and paying attention to the KPIs that make most sense for those audiences, I think is really critical. But by doing that, we were able to really channel our efforts, reduce sort of burning time and money on channels that maybe weren't performing, and really doubling down on those that really were. It depended on the publication.
Okay.
So different publications, working with our PR agencies, working with publications, working with writers that were really interested in working with publications and working with writers who are in the given space that we were looking at. So for example, if we're targeting investors, we are going to target publications that those investors are looking at. So that really comes down to pitching them, writing bylines that cater to them, making sure that the content that we're putting out is content that they are interested in, with data points that they are interested in about the business. When it comes to the audience, you really have to meet people where they're at. And understanding that if you are in the beauty tech space, you need to be in core beauty publications. If you are in the investor tech space, you need to be in investor tech publications. If you are trying to develop thought leadership, making sure that you are talking to and creating relationships with podcasts and influencers in these spaces. So targeting it was not automated. It was very hands-on. But then once we got the publications, the bylines, the interviews where we needed them, that's really where the data collection came in. And that data helped inform the direction of the strategy overall. I think that the biggest problem, at least for the area of expertise that I'm in, which is really early stage startups and smaller early stage companies, I think that you have to do more with less. You have to make sure that you are really efficient in where you're spending your time and your money. You just don't have a lot of time to run infinite tests on bylines or headlines or pitches. You don't have the staff, you don't have the resources, and you don't have the time. And if you are doing something big, like announcing a new feature or announcing a new product, you're limited in sort of what you can do. So using data to measure the early stage findings and output, and then using that data to steer you correctly is really critical. So for example, where I currently work at Good Time, we last year did a hiring insights report, and this is an annual report that we produce, and it's very data driven. And we put it out to the press, and we put it out to industry publications, the tech world at large. We put it out everywhere, and there are some channels that just don't perform as well as others. And so rather than putting good money after bad, we are going to use that, whatever time we do have and whatever resources we do have, to make sure that we're focusing on the right channels to get the maximum lift, the maximum earned media, the maximum reach. So I would say that anytime you have a big report or you're trying to make a big splash, if you don't have history, making sure that you're putting it out, paying really close attention to your data, and then letting that data really inform the direction of where you're going, because you just don't have the time. You're also burning time from a trajectory standpoint. Once you launch something, you only have so much time before it starts to decay. So you have to move fast, and you have to pay attention to data very closely, especially in those first couple of days. The metrics that are most important to me really depend upon the channel that I'm focused on. So if I am interested in seeing how a press release performs, I'm going to look at the wire metrics. I'm going to see how many people are reading it. I'm really interested in clicks to site, right? Because as a leader in inbound organic marketing, I'm trying to get people to our website. That is my number one life goal. So very interested in clicks to site across all the channels, but for press releases in particular, I think it's really, really critical. And then looking at all of the repulsing. So we will obviously take that press release and we will put it out on social media. I'll look at the social media reach. I will look at impressions. Okay, sure. But I'm really interested in reach, and I'm really, really interested in clicks to site. Once they get to the site, I want to know where they're going. Are they just going to our homepage and bouncing out? Are they looking at the press page? Are they looking at other blog articles? So I try to follow the journey if I can. Also really interested to see who visits our product page. So paying attention to the reader journey, I think, is really mission critical to understand how effective your PR is, because ultimately that's the purpose of your PR. It's really a function of content marketing and organic inbound marketing. So for example, if I'm developing a content product, like a data report, or working with product to announce something like a product feature, we are going to write a press release. We're going to potentially, if it's newsworthy, if it's this is something that's never been done before and it's going to transform, our audience's problem, we will do a press release, some blog posts, hopefully get the partner involved if we can get some partners involved. If it's in conjunction with a partner, like an integration, we will definitely get partners involved, and we will write bylines from our CEO, and we put it all out into the world. So the bylines and the blogs get pitched out to publications that might be interested in talking about this, problem that needs to be solved by this new product launch or feature launch. Definitely putting a press release out on the wire. And we're also going to tell our existing customers about this cool new feature that's going to, help save them time and money. So all of this, of course, gets distributed across social, sometimes paid, depending on the tier of the announcement. If it's a tier 1 announcement, we want to be in Forbes, we want to be in Fast Company, we want top tier press, and we want to fire hose the internet with it, with paid ads, organic posts, newsletter to our customers, the full thing. So having a tiered strategy is really, really critical. Also, something that you can use with data is once you're looking at your historical data, once you have enough built up, you can say, oh, hey, people are really interested in technology that is built around AI. And AI just gets a lot of buzz. So maybe these are tier 1 features because we know we can get a lot of buzz. Because again, my life goal, getting people to the website. That's really what I care about. So AI becomes a tier 1 product. Now, from a product perspective, maybe it's a tier 2. Maybe they're like, we have other things to worry about. But from a comms perspective, my goal might be different than theirs. So it's tier 1 in my mind. I want to fire hose the universe with it. So, and again, data helps you measure and inform all of that decision making. If I could, and again, early stage, I know that larger enterprise companies with fleshed out PR teams, they have access to this data, but if I could have it, and I think it's mission critical, it would be so great to have it for smaller scale businesses, is a full click path audit of where people are going. So they come to your press release and they come to your website. Are you tracking everything that they're consuming? Are you seeing when they bounce out? Are you looking at heat maps and seeing everything? Most early stage companies just don't have access to all of that. But having a full picture of that reader journey that's everything. So right now you get bits and pieces and you put it together. And you have a fairly good understanding of how your comms are being consumed by a reader, but you're making some assumptions, right? You're assuming, your data's clean, your data's good. But if you can have access to all of it, there's no stopping you. So having some sort of tool that has an integration to look at that click path, I think that's really, really compelling. It's so important to have a really robust comms strategy that is positioning your company as a thought leader. And thought leadership is mission critical in being a part of the conversation, whatever conversation it is that your company is in. You have to have executive development, making sure that your CEO or your chief product officer or whomever is front and center, really talking about the mission of your company. It can't always just be selling product. You have to contribute. And one of the things that I think is really valuable in a great content comms strategy is offering something selfless. Just like we do at Good Time when we offer sort of our hiring insights report. We're not selling Good Time product at all. I don't even think we mention the product in the copy at all, anywhere in the 35-page report. It's not about selling it. It's just selfless. This is a gift to you, audience. We want to show you that we know what we're talking about. And it's data, and it's third-party data. It's not our own platform data. This is data from decision makers like you talking about the problems that keep you up at night. And we're going to give it to you so you understand sort of how people in your industry, your world are thinking, and it helps inform your decision making. And there's no expectation for you to buy. There's no expectation for you to do anything, just to have it. If you are interested, great. We're happy to talk to you, but that's not the point of it. The point of it is to develop thought leadership. Now, when you combine that selfless content with really clean, strategic communications, it's like you're unstoppable, because now you're getting thought leadership in front of readers of Wall Street Journal. Now you're getting thought leadership in front of the influencers in your industry. Now you're getting thought leadership on LinkedIn, which has become very noisy the past couple of years with influencers and people doing a lot of different things. But if you're really coming at it without promoting, right? It's attraction versus promotion, and it's a very different way to attract the right people to your brand. So I'm a big fan of selfless content. I don't know that any of us have figured it out entirely. I would say that in theory, what's happening with all of the economic headwinds is very similar to the approach that I personally like with selfless content and selfless communications, in that underneath it all, you're letting your audience know sort of what's going on in that zeitgeist. You're letting people understand, like, here's what's really going on and here's why you need to know about it. So if you're talking about layoffs in technology, for example, I work in HR tech. And so my audience, aside from investors, are hiring leaders, and layoffs directly impact hiring leaders, and it directly impacts the employees of these tech companies. So yes, we're talking about performance. Yes, we're talking about headcount and doing more with less and being more efficient, and maybe using tools to be more automated to sort of shore up the delta, because your team of 12 is now a team of 6 and you still have the same amount of work to do. So having a tool is probably pretty helpful, right? So yes, we absolutely talk about those things. But then we also talk about, and I'm so glad that we're talking about these things, we also talk about sort of the human cost. So we're talking about burnout. We're talking about mental health issues. We're talking about how these layoffs are affecting the culture. And people want to read about this. They want to understand that the way that they feel is the way other people feel too. And that's when you connect. And people really, again, they ultimately want to connect with what you're saying. And that's really at the heart of communication. Be a storyteller and tell stories that your audience is really interested in. Really know your audience, understand their pain points. The more you can connect with your audience, the more likely you're going to get the actions that you want and the KPIs that you're after. So it feels a little, I don't want to say counterintuitive, but there are a lot of soft skills in the communications world. And having that data and that infrastructure absolutely informs the direction that you go, the efficiency of your efforts, the mitigation of spending in channels that aren't performing for you. But underneath it all, it's really all about connection. So know your audience really well and tell the stories that they want to hear.